out on air, which was programmed to speak to an ex-student of mine who is working on a project in Haiti. And so I thought that I'd tell you a story of connection. So this is the exact same Google Hangout on Air that I was going to use to speak to my friend in Haiti. But unfortunately, he can't be here. So I thought I'd better just use the opportunity of setting this up and speak to you about the story of this disconnection. So this morning, it was the first day back to my university department, and everybody was sitting in the meeting room, and I arrived, said hello to everybody, opened up the PC, turned on the PC, logged on, and turned on the Wi-Fi. And then when I turned on the Wi-Fi, I sighed because there was no Wi-Fi connection. And I said to myself, well, that's just bloody typical. We've been having problems with Wi-Fi in the university, it seems, for the past year. So I wasn't necessarily surprised, but it's a real nuisance. So never mind. I thought, well, I'll just set up a hotspot. I picked up the iPhone 6, went off to the settings and set up a 4G hotspot for the computer. And it worked marvelously. So there I was, happily typing away, browsing the internet, looking at Twitter, and also following the meeting. And then a few hours later, so here I am. I can't remember now, maybe 2 hours ago, I was due to meet with my friend in Haiti. So I got everything set up. I even had my lower third name tag, which I've forgotten to put on this, but never mind. And so everything was right to go. I moved the computer into the right place in the room, and I even had Wi-Fi. I mean, I was really astonished. My God, I had Wi-Fi, so everything was going swimmingly. So I picked up my iPhone 6, went to Facebook Messenger, and typed in a message to my friend in Haiti and said, hello, I'm ready for our planned meeting. It's 2 o'clock, everything is prepared, are you ready? A couple of seconds later, a reply came, and it said in French, so I'm going to translate into English, no, I'm sorry, there's a problem. I'm on my smartphone, and there's no electricity. And so I said to him, well, okay, if you like, we can do the interview. We can do it in chat, if you like. We can do it in the Google document that I'd set up. And perhaps we could reorganize the Hangout for another time. Well, he said, we could Skype. I said, yes, but we could. I said, okay, I said, we can Skype. And but the problem is I'm not going to record that. We'll do the interview another time. And then the next message came, but our PCs have got no battery because the electricity's been off for quite a while, and I've only got 38% of the battery on my smartphone left. So I thought to myself, well, that's not really a problem. And I said, well, we can do chat if you like. And then the reply came back, well, no, I want to use the 38% to make a video on YouTube of the Haitian kids show that they're doing tomorrow. And that's really important because they've been looking forward to doing their show. And I'm going to use the battery to film them. So I'm worried that if I do the interview now, we're going to waste the battery. So I said, okay, well, if you give me the link, perhaps I can share that. And I said, well, even this situation, do you mind if I use the chat copy the chat and we can blog about it. I can talk about this issue of electricity. And he replied, yeah, no problem. And then I sat down and I started writing the blog post, which I can associate with this story. And I suddenly thought about all the other connections. I thought first about how I'd felt frustrated about not being able to log onto the Wi-Fi. And I thought myself, my God, I'm just so privileged. Here I am feeling frustrated and moaning about the fact that we haven't got Wi-Fi again. Then I thought about conversations I'd had with my friend Maha and how the electricity goes on and off, and you know, the conversations are sometimes dependent on the availability of electricity, not Wi-Fi. I thought about my friend Blaise in Cameroon and the conversations we had last week. And I thought about the story he told me about when he was a kid. He used to work at night because in the evening at his home there was no light in the home because of power cuts. And I asked him when he was staying with me, I said, why is it, Blaise, you always work at night? He said, well, it's because I'm used to that rhythm. When I was in Cameroon, when I was a kid, before going to school, I used to do my homework with other kids, and we sat in the street under the street light because there was no other light that we could use to actually see what we were doing. And then I thought about a student of mine that I had in a class, and it was just before the earthquake hit in Haiti. And he was a great student. His English was brilliant. And then suddenly he disappeared. And I didn't really know. Perhaps I didn't know that there had been an earthquake. I'm not quite sure what. But he disappeared. And he came back a few weeks later. And I found a student who was no longer the same person. He was very discreet, polite, but there was no joy anymore in what he had to say. And I couldn't even guess. What had been going on. And then I thought of another Facebook friend that I had some contact with last year, a guy called Santosh. And I'd been following him a while, and we've been talking about the possibility of students from France helping him with a project they had to build a school. And he had been building a school in Nepal, and I followed the building of the school. And suddenly, of course, then there was earlier in the year an earthquake. And all of that school was wiped out. So years of work was wiped out with one tremor. And not only was the school wiped out, but his house and his family's houses and his friends, and he lost members of his family. And I suddenly felt completely and utterly disconnected, overawed, useless, helpless. And I thought to myself, well, you know, what is the point of being a connected educator if you can only connect with people who share the same privileges? So this is a story, I suppose, of connection, because I would never have been able to tell the story if I had not been connected to the guy in Haiti. I'm telling the story the very day that this has happened. I couldn't have had an understanding of those difficulties if I hadn't had those long conversations that I'd had with my friends, Blaise, for example. I couldn't have had the understanding, the limited understanding that I have of what was going on if I hadn't seen the photos of school building projects and Sebastien, the guy's work in Haiti. But I'm left with that feeling of helplessness, and sometimes I feel almost it's perverse. It's a perverse, vicarious spectator sport, being a connected educator. So there is hope. There is hope in all that. Sebastian, he left one thing in that YouTube chat which I will remember. And he said, well, with that 38% of my battery, I'm going to film the kids and I'm going to put that video on YouTube. And I thought to myself, yeah, do we ever wonder how we're going to use that 38% of smartphone battery in the best possible way? And there was a headline in an article in the Nouvelliste, which I learnt was one of the national newspapers in Haiti, which the headline for this was L'espérance rime avec la formation. So I'm going to translate that pretty feebly because that's how I feel. And that basically means education rhymes with hope. And I think that if I have any message at all, is that hope goes from Haiti to France and back to you. So yeah, there are issues of disconnection, but what can we do apart from connect those little instances or glimpses of hope? And I suppose, what else can one do? So that's my story. It's a story of disconnection. It's a story of connection. Hopefully, I hope it's a story of hope. So that's my story.